What if I told you that it's still possible to stop Anakin becoming Darth Vader, even after it's already happened? What if I told you that it's still possible to restore the Jedi Order? You know, the one from the prequels. What if I told you that it's possible to stop the entire Empire and the First Order from ever existing? Sounds ridiculous, right? I mean, surely this is impossible. All of these events have already happened. Well, I've come up with a theory for how this may be possible. Some of the things I say are speculative and my own interpretation, so bear in mind that this is just a theory, but it's one I truly believe in. There's also spoilers for Star Wars Rebels, so if you haven't seen the series, now may be the time that you wish to click off the video. So, how exactly is all this possible? This all revolves around the world between worlds, aka my favourite arc in Rebels. Seriously, this is some of the most creative Star Wars content I've ever watched. If you don't already know, the world between worlds, as described by Minister Hayden, is a
pathway between all time and space. He who controls it, controls the universe.
So, if someone was able to get to the world between worlds, they could rewrite the past, like when Ezra interacted with one of the portals and dragged Ahsoka out, saving her from Vader. Ahsoka! If someone was able to enter the world between worlds and pull Anakin out just before he intervened in Mace's duel with Palpatine, it would rewrite the entire fate of the galaxy, leading up to all the things I mentioned at the start of this video. Before we continue, it's important to mention that the world between worlds can only traditionally be entered by a light side user, and if you're a dark side user, you can't enter the world between worlds by traditional means. There's a lot of evidence to support that, but the main one is this.
My power is but a reflection of the might of my Emperor.
And yet for all his might, he couldn't open the door, but Ezra could.
The all-powerful Emperor wasn't able to open the portal to enter the world between worlds, but the young Ezra Bridger could. Ezra entered the world between worlds by interacting with the painting of the Mortis gods. After Ezra left the world between worlds, he closed the portal, causing the painting along with the Jedi temple on Lothal to collapse. However, there is another method that can be used to enter the world between worlds: Sith alchemy. We see this when the Emperor used it to connect to one of the portals in the world between worlds.
Ezra Bridger and Ahsoka Tano, mine at last.
Sith alchemy can be used to connect to one of the portals, but a dark side user cannot physically go through the portal unless they've bound with a light side user. When the Emperor used his first blue fire spell on Ezra and Ahsoka, it failed to connect with either of them, and his hands remained behind the portal. However, when the Emperor used his second blue fire spell on them, it grabbed Ezra, binding him to the Emperor. As the Emperor has now connected to a light side user, he was able to use Ezra's energy as a light sider to enter the world between worlds, which is why we see his hand slowly pass through the portal. When Ahsoka tethers the connection with her lightsaber, we can see that the Emperor's hands retract back through the portal and he's no longer allowed to pass through the portal, as his connection with the light side user has now been unbound. Now here comes the juicy part. If we had a light side force user that was able to cast the same spell that the Emperor used to connect to a portal, then they could just walk through and enter the world between worlds, because even though they're using Sith magic, ultimately in their hearts, they're good. Now, a light side force user who practiced Sith alchemy is currently unheard of in canon. However, that's not to say that it's not possible. What we have heard of is Jedi that practice dark side lightsaber combat. One example of which is Mace Windu, who mastered the variant of Form 7 known as Vapad. Vapad required him to draw strength from his anger and other negative emotions in order to fight his opponent, similar to the Sith. Whilst Mace fought with the dark side, he never actually allowed it to consume him and remained a Jedi at heart. Much like Vapad, Sith alchemy also required their users to draw on the dark side of the Force. If it's possible for a Jedi to master a dark side lightsaber technique and remain a Jedi, then I believe it's possible for a Jedi to practice Sith alchemy and remain a Jedi in their heart too. Also, we can see that lightsiders can learn dark side force abilities as well, and if we take a look at Rey, we can see she uses Force Lightning. So yeah, having a lightsider learn Sith alchemy is entirely possible in canon. This Jedi would be able to use the same spell that the Emperor used to connect to the portal in the World Between Worlds and walk through. If they had their hearts set on stopping Anakin Skywalker from entering the Chancellor's office, then I believe that the Force would guide them to the correct portal, just like it guided Ezra to Morai, which led to him discovering Ahsoka's portal and saving Ahsoka. From here, they could pull out Anakin Skywalker moments before he entered the Chancellor's office. Mace Windu would then be able to kill the Emperor, Darth Vader would then never be born, Order 66 would never be carried out by the Emperor, the clones wouldn't wipe out the entirety of the Jedi, and so the Jedi Order would remain intact, the Empire would never be born, Snoke would never be created, and the First Order wouldn't exist neither. I know this is a crazy theory, but that goes to show that there may be a world where the entirety of the Star Wars universe could be completely rewritten. Yo guys, so I've got to whisper because my roommates are sleeping, but yeah, what's crazy about the World Between Worlds is that you can, not only does it have the possibility to do the things I've mentioned just now, but you can literally use it to bring any single Star Wars character back to life, which I think is pretty cool. And that was actually going to be the original title of this video. But yeah, I want to know from you guys, if you could bring any single Star Wars character back to life, who would it be? Personally, for me, I would bring back Qui-Gon Jinn. I don't know if you watched my last video, but Qui-Gon Jinn is by far my favourite Jedi in the series. So yeah, other than that, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, hit that subscribe button because I'm going to be putting out new, unique Star Wars content every single Friday. So yeah, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.